outside for like 10 minutes. Are you alright? Oh god. Alright, I guess I better give you an hour, but... Yeah, there's a lot of... I think you, Are you sure you're okay? No, you're fine. Maybe I'm just projecting a little bit. Perhaps I'm a little nervous too. No, I'm not sure. But yes. What is something I wanted to say? I have to be honest. After the last stream we had together, do you remember what it was? Not the last one, but a couple of streams ago, The Sims. There was a lot of, there was some unfortunate, what's the word, disobedience there? I kind of want to set the record straight tonight, if that's alright with you. I should hope so. So, I'll meet you outside whenever you're ready. Remember, the dress code is just whatever makes you feel happy, and hopefully I'll get a chance to see you in a bit, okay? Good. Alright, I'll see you in a moment, alright?
Hey! Oh my goodness, what are you wearing? The hell is that? I mean, I was, you know, you, Kindred, you're very, oh goodness me, I am very nervous, aren't I? Kindred, you're normally one for an interesting dress code, but this is something else. I'm not really sure if I can, oh, whatever. We'll make it work, It's not like I dress conventionally either, but, is it really date attire? Whatever. How are you feeling today, darling? Are you okay? I know that going on a date is something that might make you a little bit nervous. I should hope that you're feeling alright. You sure you're okay? Huh? Ah, you poor thing. What's that perfume you're wearing? NIJISANJI du temps. That does smell nice. I don't know if I've ever smelled that one before. I'm glad you decided to wear that. I think that's a good fit for you. If you'd like to excuse me, I am it's a part of keeping myself awake in between all of the work I do to try and stay energetic and happy while I'm trying to have a bit of recreational time. I have a flask of tea with me to make sure I don't pass out, so give me one moment. Ooh, that was way too hot. My tongue burned. Oh, goodness me. Pajamas, really? Pajamas? We'll figure it out. We'll do fine. You know, so let me think. What is actually on the itinerary for tonight? There's quite a bit that I'd like to do with you. So, my car is parked just around the corner, and when given enough time, I think that you and I are going to hop in, and we'll take a drive into town, okay? And then, once we're there, there's this lovely little restaurant I'd like to take us both to. By the time we get there, I reckon it'll be dark, so hopefully it isn't, hopefully it's not too out of the way for you, and hopefully it appeals to your tastes and sensibilities. But once we're there, hopefully we'll have a nice meal, have a nice chat, and then afterwards you'd be welcome to come back to my place if that's what you want. Don't get any ideas, though. I mean, I'm not a slut, but who knows? Anyway, if you'd like to follow me, let's get in my car and we'll head off, okay? Now, before you ask any questions, this is a self-driving car, which means that I can afford to sit and talk to you for as much as I like. Okay? Okay? That's good. I promise you that my eyes don't need to be on the road for us to be safe, so don't you worry about it, we're gonna be absolutely fine. So anyway, how have you been holding up? I do hope you're alright. It's, I've seen that, you know, there were quite a few things that you said before we came out here, quite a few things about feeling nervous, and obviously I'm nervous too, you know, who wouldn't be, right? But, I do hope you're feeling alright. You're not too nervous, are you? You really shouldn't worry. Today's gonna be a good day. Hopefully we'll get a chance to have some nice food, and I don't really have any expectations. I just really like it if you could be calm and be happy. Do you know what I mean? Quit laughing at me. I don't need to concentrate on the road. Quit laughing. Also, there's something wrong with my car, and I'm actually kind of slumped down quite a bit. Like I have to like lean down in the seat. So, you know, the issue is that if I kind of prop myself up, like my head just kind of shoots out the window, which is like just really unsafe for everyone involved. If I had the chance, I would stick my tongue out like a dog, and I'd be like. But, you know, I think I'll leave that for Mister. I think that's just sort of that's more his thing, and I don't really want to step on any toes. What have you been saying? What have you been saying? You love me? Kindred, I literally just picked you up. You really mustn't move so fast. I'd like to remind you that I've been on many dates, and none of them that began with someone confessing to me in the first 5 minutes ever went anywhere. I'm just here to break it to you like it is, okay? I'm sorry. Kenzo Parfum. It smells like a mixture of... What is that? Cold spring and sea wind. More suitable for summer. Well, I mean, I'm not really one to encourage people to change their stance and change what they'd like to do if it means, you know, a scent that they're less comfortable with. I'm glad that you're going with what you're comfortable with, Kindred. That's alright. A nice car. It is a nice car, isn't it? I saved up for it for a while. I saved up for it for quite a while. Also, you must ignore our surroundings. I promise you, we are getting closer to the city. It just sometimes it takes a little bit, and you know, that's the reality. See, there it was. Reality around here can get a little bit scuffed, and you know, when you go through these woods, you sort of forget where you are. But you wouldn't have noticed that if you were actually paying attention to me. You know, look me in the eyes. It's gonna be okay. I've told you, Kindred, my eyes don't need to be on the road. This is a self-driving car. Please do be calm. Please do calm down. Sammy, thank you very much for the super. Good morning, Vox. Nervous? Everyone's nervous. And bombshell from Victoria's Secret. Oh, that is nice. That does suit you. That does suit you. No, all right. I've seen what you've been saying, and I've been kind of getting a vibe from you, and I'd like to just put a stop to this right away. You're not going to pay for dinner, okay? Have you seen how generous the Kindred are when, you know, obviously the Kindred who were unlucky enough to not be here right now. You know, you're the Kindred I'm spending my time with at the moment, but right now, you've seen how generous they all are. This is my way of giving back, so please, I'm paying for dinner, okay? I'm paying for dinner. And by the way, I'm also paying for gas. So please, you really mustn't worry. Another perk to having a self-driving car is I can knock back some tea in the meantime. We're going through the forest because you live in a suburb. That's where I picked you up from anyway. Unless you were just kind of hanging out in a random corner of the world. I mean, it is pretty far from the city. I don't know why you asked me to pick you up from there, sorry, if that isn't where you lived, but whatever. Oh, it's your first time, is it? Well, I'm glad to be the one who gets to pop your cherry, eh? Where are my legs? They're planted firmly on the fucking pedals, where they should be. Yeah, self-driving doesn't mean that you don't push the pedals, because you've got to be able to make an emergency stop. I mean, you know, there could be someone who's out there. That motherfucker's trying to cut me off. Oh no, never mind. We're fine. It's good to see so much love from you guys. A surprising car. Is it Akuma magic? What do you mean by that? The car's not magic. It's a It's a Volvo. Silly girl. A lot of your questions really do surprise me. I think we might be coming up on the city now, so I really wouldn't worry too much. Kindred, I have to ask a question. Why are you wearing so many different perfumes? All of these different lovely French names for perfumes, and suddenly you've come out and said you're asking if you can pay for dessert, which I absolutely refuse. You will not be paying for dessert. And then you say that you're wearing honeysuckle and jasmine perfume. Which one is it? Which one is it? Yeah, it's kind of silly. It's kind of silly, but it's fine. It's fine. You're driving the car like the Flintstone. Okay, Kindred. I know it's just you and me right now, but I would really appreciate it if you did have it in you. Some fan art of that would be absolutely hilarious. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I brought my cup of tea, so I can keep up my energy to keep pedaling. Oh, you do make me laugh. You do make me laugh. We're not splitting the bill, Kindred. We're not splitting the bill. We're almost there, all right? Just accept the fact that I'm gonna have to whack my wad a little bit and let you enjoy some well-earned comforts without having to pay for them. Okay? Please, just stay calm and let yourself be treated every once in a while. You know, you work so very hard, so very hard for all of the love and generosity that you give me, you know, when about that happens, and what? And for what? Only to split the dessert bill with me afterwards? No. This is my way of giving back, so please, don't you dare argue with me anymore, okay? Where are we heading? Good question. So, this restaurant is right in the center of town, but it's remarkably hidden away. We'll probably have to go through a few back streets to get there, and it's very quaint. It's very small. It's got a bit of like a steampunk vibe to it. Like there's like, they've got a load of weird decor, but I think the food there really makes it worth it. And then once you're there and you're enjoying the food, I think that it really kind of satisfies the you know, most people's palate for that kind of thing. It's not shady. It's not shady. It's not shady. You clearly haven't lived in the city for very long. The best restaurants in town are the ones that are difficult to find, because those are the ones that started from humble beginnings and have survived for many to That is the mark of a restaurant that is hidden away and has really good food. Also, I've already been to all of the really obvious big ones, so to be honest, I quite fancy trying something a little bit different. Okay? Anyway, yes. That's where we're heading. And once we've had a meal, we can either hang out by the beach for a little bit, or we can just head straight home. It depends on how you're feeling. Again. Oh. Hang on, what is that? So, you've now changed your perfume to oud wood. It does smell nice. And you've chosen a dark red leather choker. Ah, now that is my style. I like your fashion sense. I think that's really good. It's quite incredible. Every time I look at you, you seem to change outfits, change perfume. Is there something going on, Kindred? Is there something you're not telling me, or perhaps I'm worrying too much? You know, the world's full of some strange people, and I'm happy that of all the strange people in the world, I get to spend time with you above all of them. No, I'm not Lieutenant Dan. I'm just sat down here so my head doesn't fly out the window, okay? Okay? It's fine. Oh, what is that? You got your wisdom teeth out recently? Well, why the hell did you let me take you out to dinner? That's going to be awfully painful. You know, actually, the place we're going, I think, serves a really delightful soup. So, I think that'll be good. You just got to make sure it doesn't, like, if it's hot, it doesn't hit the back of it, but otherwise you should be able to get through it without chewing. So, it should be okay. You're not still on the anesthesis, are you? Yeah, your speech sounds fine. It should be fine. No. I can't... I don't know if tempted by your smell is the right phrase, but we'll get there, we'll get there. I'm just gonna have another sip of my thing and... up ahead, yep, can you see it up ahead? I think we're approaching the city now. So just, do stay calm, Kindred. I'm gonna put the pedal to the metal and we'll be there in just a few moments, okay? See, this is what I'm talking. When I said back alley, I wasn't talking about like some kind of a weird back alley where, you know, you've got to do all these twists and turns and then knock on a door 3 times fast, and then a dude pops up with a little mustache and he says, "Here, come this way," and then you worry if it's like, am I being taken to a restaurant or am I going to be taken to the slaughterhouse where they make food for the restaurant? You know, you never know. But yeah, so this like when I said back alley, I didn't mean back alley. I meant like a street. So it's just a little ways down here. So you're just gonna have to follow me for a little bit. Hive mind, you say? Yeah, that kind of makes sense. That kind of makes sense given the wild change in spelling, grammar, perfume, clothing. You really are quite an anomaly, Kindred. But I have to say, it's very mysterious. But I do find it quite sexy at the end of the day. You know, it's unique. It's unique. Stop talking about monkeys. We're going on a date. I mean, you know that's the way to my heart, but you know, we'll get there. We'll get there. Hold hands. Ooh, you are very bold, very forward of you. Well, to be honest, I would love to. I really, really would. Of course, I'd love to hold your hand, Kindred, but have you ever seen me take my hands off of my arms? Have you ever seen me uncross my arms? I don't think you have. It's going to take a lot more than sitting in a car with me for 20 minutes than to get me to let my guard down like that. So please do know your place and remember that you'll have to earn that kind of a privilege over time. Okay? Okay. Good. Good, 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 good. Ooh, a movie. That might be fun. That might be fun. I have to think about it. I mean, I did kind of pick an itinerary for us, and I did sort of think like, oh, you know, we can do this, we can do that. It's, you know, this is just also, you know, I think just going out for dinner. Kindred, let me be honest with you. I'm not sure how many of the many souls swirling around in your head there are, but I'd imagine a lot of them have been on dates before. And if you've been on dates before, you'll know that going to the movies on a first date is kind of always a pretty bad idea. You know what I mean? Like, it's not awful, but you go to the movies and then, you know, maybe you have an awkward interaction at first, or maybe it's just like the, hi, oh, hello, good to meet you, and then you immediately go into the cinema and you sit and you say nothing for about 3 hours. You know? I made that mistake once. I took a girl out to go and see Blade Runner on our first date, and so we just sat in silence watching this really dark movie for 3 hours. It was a really bad idea. But it was a good movie, though. Oh, the original Lorax. Now, that's a short one. The original Lorax is short, and it is very good. So, yeah. Yeah, we could do that. I'll have to have a think about it, Kendra. I'll have to have a think. Oof. So, what is it that you're saying? What's your name? Sero? Oh, I understand. So you've ended a long-term relationship. Well, I think that given that person you were with before managed to cheat on you, which is a despicable thing to do, I'm really glad that you found it in you to move on quickly. What happened to you was despicable, disgusting, and awful, and I'm glad, even if it's not great for me, I'm glad that you're so eager to treat me as your rebound. I hope I can give you a really nice evening. Something that asshole who was dating you before maybe couldn't, huh? I do hope you feel better by the end of the date, alright? I won't leave you alone, and I'll make sure I keep asking up after you to make sure you're okay, alright? I really like the night air out here. I'm sorry that we've been walking for such a long time. I really should have parked closer, but, you know, the atmosphere out here is so nice. There's so many little shops you can look into. There are other people that we can chat to. Unless you're, you know, I mean, it's odd. I like to call myself an extrovert, but then when I actually go out of my way to talk to people, I wind up, you know, I find it difficult to actually approach people to begin with. You know, it's sort of that feeling where I'd rather keep to myself, but then when I'm around people, then, you know, that's when that side of me comes out. So maybe some of you can relate to that. Maybe some of the souls in there can relate to that. I have to admit, I've never been on a date with an amalgamation of almost 10,000 separate personalities swimming around in one. I have to admit, one really attractive body. So you'll have to be patient with me as I try to remember which is which, but perhaps I can try and get to know each and every one of you in due course, okay? Oh, I've seen that one of you doesn't want to stay. Alright, I'm sorry I was too much for you. I'll try and do better in future, okay? Although would I be doing better if I did less of what I'm doing right now? Also, I understand that hang on, what was that? One of you has managed to... oh, you've gotten on a scooter accident. Well, see that's perplexing to me, because how can you get in a scooter accident when you're just a disembodied soul living inside this lovely person I'm going out with? Yeah, whatever. Maybe the collective body of all of you got into a scooter accident. That's pretty rough. But either way. The restaurant is right around the corner. Do you wanna step inside and maybe we can have a bite to eat, huh? I really like the atmosphere in this place. It's very, very nice. See, one of the other reasons why I didn't want to go for one of the super popular restaurants in town is because they always wind up having so many people. You know what I mean? There are so many people making so much noise, and there's just, you know, there are like 2 or 3 other tables here tonight, but it's small and it's cozy, and what we're gonna have is a really, really nice time to just get to know each other privately without worrying about any prying ears, screaming children, or anything of that nature. They also, I think they do take a while to come over, so we'll have a chance to have a decent chat, okay? Something's burning. Well, I don't smell anything burning. Oh, you're flirting with me, aren't you? Well, I'm sorry that your heart is burning. I should get you some Gaviscon. I'm sorry that that's becoming such an issue for you, my darling. Oh, a kiss on the hand? I'm sorry, Kindred, but, you know, the way it works on dates typically is that you wait a while, you try to woo your date, and then maybe, if you're lucky, at the end, you might get a kiss. Might. So I'm expecting you to work really hard for me tonight, and then maybe, towards the end, you can have a little bit of attention, if that's alright with you. Of course. What was it I said earlier? I mean, I'm not a slut, but who knows? Thank you for mentioning. Oh, that's, who's that? That's Sero peeking up again. Thank you very much for saying that you enjoy the streams, and I really do hope that this one winds up helping you feel a little bit better. I'm glad that I can take you out a little bit and help you forget about that person who broke your heart. It's terrible to hear about, but your generosity really does mean the world. I caved. I had to give you a little kiss on the hand. I'm sorry. Are we drinking alcohol? You can if you'd like. I've got some tea here, but you know, it's up to you. If you don't drink, if you're the music here is kind of weird, isn't it? It's jazzy, but then they sort of start introducing those techno elements to it, and it just sort of becomes like, I don't know. Hopefully they'll change the radio at some point soon, but I don't know. I'm kind of used to it now. I think it sounds okay. People are asking for Osmanthus wine. They might have Osmanthus wine here. I was really shocked because I had only heard of Osmanthus wine through, you know, lovely Mr. John Lee. And then after that, you know, I found that it was actually just a real thing that exists both on Earth and in Teyvat. That's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy how that works out. What a coincidence, right? A romantic movie? Romantic movies are good, although I feel like maybe we should go for a romantic film another time. You know, to be honest, I would like, well, it depends. I think this date has gone really well so far, but perhaps it'll change, you know, perhaps things might go wrong. Perhaps you might upset me, so maybe I shouldn't promise too much. You do have to work hard. You have to remember that I've been alive for a long time, and I've been around many, many beautiful people, so first of all, you're very lucky to have a little bit of my attention. But I also don't want you to worry, because so far, I think you're doing very, very well. Now, a horror movie on a first date, that's something I can get behind. It's also got to be a post-horror movie with, like, weird themes, you know. That's the best way of getting someone to like you on a first date. I'm joking. I'm definitely joking. That's a really, really bad idea. Sit closer. Well, I mean, we're opposite ends of the table. You can, you know, shuffle up a little bit, but then you might be at the edge of your seat, and I'd like to imagine you're not hanging on my every word. If it's that way, then I mean, I don't know. You're not too interested in me, are you? Chat, there's always a lesson I'd like to teach you, and I think it's important to recognize that anyone you go on a date with, anybody, is going to be a little bit opposed to the idea of being too close to you right away. I'd like to remind you this date has only been going for half an hour, and you're already asking to sit next to me, already asking to snuggle with me. That is pretty pathetic, but I suppose I find it cute. But no, stay in your lane and sit on the opposite side of the table for me right now. Oh, I think they're bringing the menus over now. Let's have a look, shall we? So there's the fuck is that? Is that some kind of a joke? Yeah, it's gross. I need to have a conversation with the manager of this restaurant. That's in very poor taste. It's a good thing I brought my tea. I guess we can't have anything. Huh. The entire restaurant is a sham. A good thing I brought this pot of tea, because otherwise we'd be sitting here just staring at a piece of paper for lunch. It's awful. It's awful behavior from them. Ugh. Anyway. Let's put that down. I mean, maybe if the food here is just a joke, then maybe we can, I don't know. Maybe we can enjoy a little bit of time just chatting. Maybe we don't have to eat anything. Maybe we can get some food on the way back. Or, you know, if you do manage to impress me, and you do manage to worm your way into my house after this, maybe, just maybe, and this is, you know, this is only a proposition, so you mustn't rush, but if possibly, maybe we can be a little bit unhealthy. Maybe we can order some food, huh? Because I imagine by the time we get back, we're going to be really hungry. Or maybe if we, well, I was going to say if we get drunk while we're here, then maybe we can go for some midnight McDonald's, but, you know, that's always a good alcoholic tradition, isn't it? You scraped your knees falling for me. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You really mustn't show all of your cards so early, Kindred. You know, you're taking almost no time at all, and all of a sudden, you're saying, oh, I love you, oh, I fell for you. This, you know, if I didn't already know you so well, this would be in really, really poor form. This would be in really, really poor form. I have to be honest with you. So please, Kindred, do try to do a little bit better, because remember, I've been on dates with experts in this kind of area, and I understand that for some of those swimming around in that massive souls, there are some of you who are having their very first date, so I'll go easy on you. But do remember to heed what I say, and don't rush, okay? Do you have to fight the entire restaurant? Well, there's no need for that. I mean, I don't really think there's any need for that at this point. It's, yes, the menu was a really, really rude joke and very, very poor taste. But, it's kind of funny. It was a little bit funny. It was at least somewhat amusing. You know, we just spent some time together, and then all of a sudden they were like, yo. Yes, these people who don't know either of us, you know, they've probably seen me before because I've been here before, but they don't know who I am. They sort of sat down with a menu and they said, hey. They said, hey, you two should fuck. Huh? What? Huh? If I was on any other date, I feel like that would kill the vibe, but to be honest, for you guys, I think that's something that you really enjoy, huh? Gross. That's another thing. That's another thing. You mustn't move too fast in that department either. Just gotta give us some time. Give us some time to get to know each other. I mean, let me be honest. Let me be completely honest with you. I think that whatever's going on here, all the different looks, all of the different parfum, all the different personalities, it comes together and it does make someone who someone I would quite like to take home after all of this is over, but don't get your hopes up so quickly. There's still a chance for you to fuck things up. So do take your time and don't rush. Please don't rush. I'm desperate. I'm glad you're at least having fun. You know, that way, even if you do fuck up, then you will have had a good time anyway. I would like to clarify, I will at least drive you home. I will at least drive you home if you manage to piss me off, okay? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'm glad you like the atmosphere. The music is really starting to get on my nerves though. It's been this one loop for like the past 10 minutes and it just hasn't changed. With like the wee 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 wee. What if I can ask them to change it? What if I can ask them to change it? Excuse me? Can you change this music? It fucking stinks. Do you think they heard me? I don't know, I guess we'll have to wait. I promise I'm not being rude to customer service staff. It's just the manager. He was rude to us anyway, so I feel like it's kind of earned. You know what I mean? Oh, they changed it. Oh, good. I remember this one. I've heard this one before. Oh, this isn't so bad. All right, I can get used to that. You know, if they're not going to serve us any food, then at least the tea is nice. Would you like some? No? You feel like you throw it up? That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. You can just sit there and be hollow for a while. Don't worry about it. Ooh, that is a good question. Thank you very much. If I were to star in a movie, who would you like as your co-star? And what would the movie be about? Well, I think this feels like a really nice plot of a film, doesn't it? Picture this. A rom-com. From two different worlds. Two souls come together. Well, in actuality, more than two. If I was to check the numbers right now, what are we at? One demon lord from a destroyed clan 400 years in the past. And an amalgamation of 10,000 souls, all wanting very, very badly to get in my pants. Together they will discover the true meaning of love. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that special? Yeah. If I could have the Kindred as my co-star in a big budget Hollywood movie, then I can't say I'd complain too much. I think that sounds like quite a bit of fun. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? You have a problem. Sort of like, what's her name from Wreck-It Ralph? Vanellope, you know, where at the beginning she's like, oh, I've got my glitch. I've got this problem, you know. I can't stop glitching all over the place. But then, towards the end, she learns to embrace the glitch. It'd be like you guys. You know, it can't be easy to be 10,000 souls, sometimes more, sometimes less, sharing one... I keep saying it because I'm trying to be charming, but one really, really nice body. It must be difficult, right? The souls coming in and out like a train station, swimming around in the head, all fighting for the place at the front. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Split, but there's only like 28 of that dude. There's like 10,000 of you. That must be pretty rough, right? And I have to say, for that, you are holding yourself together really, really well. I have to say, I'm very proud of you for managing to contain this much raw energy. So I think that'd be kind of fun. That's a good question. You're very clever, aren't you? Well, I suppose when you have 10,000 people to refer to for questions to ask your date, you really aren't going to run out of ideas, are you? Would you like the tea? You'd like the tea? You'd like the tea? Okay. Well, why don't we share a little bit? I'll pour you some, and then we can share some. So, hey, here's one I poured just a second ago. Okay. Bottoms up, all right? English breakfast tastes the same as I remember. And I'm glad you're here to share the memory. Okay, so I'm learning new things. I'm learning new things about this whole arrangement that's going on with you. How on earth? Okay, so there's a cat in there now. There's a cat scrambling around inside you, and so first of all, you've confessed to me for the 45th time this evening, which, while coming on very strong, I do have to admire your persistence. You made the cat run away when you shouted that you loved me, huh? That's kind of sweet. That's kind of sweet. I hope the cat isn't too scared. You're gonna have to, please, whoever of you is on cat duty in that lovely body of yours, please just go and find him and give him some tuna or something to just apologize to him for that, because that's mean. That's mean. One of you, I mean, I can't see the cat. One of you's talking about a cat. You're all the ones sharing that body. I'd imagine that you'd be well aware of a cat. Getting lost in my eyes, are you? I only wish I could lean closer, but then people might think we're about to start some PDA in the middle of the restaurant, and that's not something I really want associated with my character as a vicious public makeout on a first date. Although I do have to admire your, what is it, your gusto, the bravery to ask me. You know, it's fine, but do calm down. If that is on the cards for tonight, then it'll happen later, when we're away from prying eyes. Oh, you're a chimera, are you, Kindred? Huh. I kind of preferred it when it was sort of like, you know, an undescribable mass of souls swirling around, but, I don't know, I imagine we'll figure it out. Oh, interesting. Well, first of all, you're admitting that you're on this date. Okay, so at least one of you hanging out in there. One of you is admitting that you guys are here for love advice to date somebody else rather than me, which, to be honest, Sigma grind set, kind of have to applaud it. Feeling a little bit hurt, not gonna lie, but whatever, moving on. Your friend is the female version of Ah, so your friend and I are the female versions of Ike and you. You've been wooing her for 4 years now. Interesting. Interesting. Well, it's a shame, but I don't know if I'm really an authority on I don't know if I'm really an authority on how to woo Ike. I haven't been terribly successful at it. Perhaps that's why I'm on. Perhaps that's why I'm on this date with you right now. I'm trying to recover after that terrible experience, or that week or so ago. Goodness me. But if I was to give you some advice, don't do what I did. Okay. Although, if you've been wooing her for 4 years, it almost seems like it must be one of those situations where either you both like each other and are too nervous to say anything, or, you know, they're just completely oblivious. So, I think the best thing to do, put yourself in a position where you really feel like you're dateable. You know what I mean? Focus on yourself, work hard, be a strong person that you feel like is in an emotionally sound state, ready for a relationship, and then hit them with something easy to understand. Don't say, "I've loved you for the past 4 years," because they'll be like, ugh. What you should go up to them and say is, "Yo, to be honest, I think you're really cute. Do you want to go to the movies?" There you go. If they say no, no worries, and then you move on. If they say yes, bingo, you did it. It really isn't so hard. I think it just takes a lot of nerves. Again, one of you has just come to the surface and is offering to pay for the meal. I told you really, really seriously, I will be paying for everything. Although, to be honest, wait a minute. We're not even eating any food. Did you see the fucking menu? There's nothing on here. The whole menu is a joke, and we sat there. I mean, maybe it's my fault for yelling at the manager to change the music, but there's literally nothing on here that we can eat. It's just this. It's purely this. Oh well. It's fine. It's fine. I guess there is no meal to pay for anyway, because, you know, look at this teapot. Do you think that's theirs? No, that's mine. I brought that. This is our tea. You got nothing to pay for. They haven't given us anything. So I guess the real resolution to this dilemma is that neither of us pay for anything. Oh, it's one of your birthdays. Happy birthday. Wait. Oh, you're very lucky. You're very lucky I didn't tell them. Because you know, going on this date with you, I should have thought about that. You know what I mean? I should have thought about the fact that there are, I mean, of 10,000 people, there must be at least a good few hundred of you, maybe more, that have birthdays today. So maybe I should have gotten them to come over with a birthday cake. You know, some candles. Get the entire restaurant to stop and sing happy birthday. But to be honest, I don't think any of you would have really liked that very much, huh? Maybe that's something for next time. Next time. Oh, next time? Did he say next time? Maybe. I think you're all doing quite well. Huh. So one of you has said, in your country, if you say, "I'm hot water and you're tea leaves," means I want to talk to you about love. Would you like me to pour you some more tea? I'll take that back and I'll think about it, okay? You're hot water and I'm tea leaves. You know, it makes sense for you guys to be hot water. It's like you're a mug and each little particle is a different person swimming around in there. Oh, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's almost a shame. Like, it's bringing up this weird sort of anxiety in me that it makes me feel like I'm going on a date with... I mean, right now, you know, I've been speaking to quite a few of you, but presumably, like, that's barely even scratching the surface. You know? It's almost like I'm going on a date with thousands of people I'll never meet. It's romantic, but it's also very cold. You know, maybe that'd be, in that film we were talking about, maybe that would be kind of the inciting incident. You know, you're going on a date with someone else who doesn't understand you and who gets so blown away by the... Nah. I almost feel like it would be... You know, I mean, kind of dark, but do you know the movie Schindler's List? How at the end, Liam Neeson is like, oh, I could have saved more of them. It's almost like that, you know? Where I might give you the best date you ever had, and then afterwards I would be like, oh, I could have known more of them. You know? Yeah, 10,000 first dates. I won't go into too many details about the movie. It's very, very sad. Very, very sad. Maybe you could take us home and cook for us. Oh, that's a decent enough idea. I'd like to show off to you, but to be honest, I've got nothing ready at home. I really don't. I'd certainly like to. Maybe next time, huh? Maybe next time. That's the thing. That's the thing. You all are very sly. You all are being very sly. You really are getting me to want to take you out again because you're suggesting all these ideas that I'm not even prepared for. Oh well. Oh well. Oh, I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt you. I mean, we haven't been on this date for very long at all. Goodness me. Oh, look at that. Corkage fee for that tea. To be honest with you, I have no idea what that means. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. Maybe I'm lost in your eyes. Trying to figure out which of you is looking at me. One of you says you're in a long-distance relationship and haven't been on a date in a while. Long-distance relationships are pretty rough, aren't they? It's sort of like it's like a relationship can be a perfect thing. You know, two people can have a genuinely perfect, unspoken, beautiful bond that they just don't even need to think about. It just feels that beautiful. But then the one inciting thing, which unfortunately in our day and age is so much more common because of the internet and internet communities. You know, in the old days it was forums, and nowadays it's Discord servers. Maybe even the the Vox Akuma pre-chat. I've seen you guys. You guys make some fun conversations. I'm kind of jealous. But it's all the more common that the people you wind up falling in love with tend to live thousands of miles away, and especially in the past couple of years, traveling out and getting to see them has been really, really difficult. It can be pretty tragic, you know, to feel as though everything was perfect. Everything about us is perfect. And then, right after that, the only thing stopping us is the fact that, oh, I'm going to need to spend like $1,000 on a plane ticket if I ever want to come visit you. It's a cruel irony. There need to be more movies about long-distance relationships, don't there? Get drunk and talk about sports, eh? Get drunk and talk about sports. I think one of you must have had the bro setting selected in the Sims. Sports. Now, that's a familiar name I recognize. That's a familiar voice I've seen a bunch of times before. Saphrodisiac, is that you? An amalgamation of souls, and yet you've lived longer than any of us can fathom, so I figure we're both a little out of our element, yeah? You are a clever girl. What an interesting way of bringing me down to your level. I have to say, I think that worked on me. I really think it did. You know what's on the menu? Me and you. You are clever. You are clever, aren't you? Speaking of, you know, all of that terrible stuff with long-distance relationships, I suppose, if any of you are going through that, or sort of anything surrounding it, like, I don't know what it's like to live inside, like, live as a microscopic soul inside a, you know, a body that's actually kind of really doing stuff to me. It's hard to imagine how things work in there. But if any of you are suffering from long-distance relationships, maybe one of you is dating someone from outside your body, or maybe you're someone you know has been locked inside with that awful disease that's going around. I do hope it improves, and I'm sure it will. Okay? Whether or not you and I wind up going home together, I hope that whoever it is that you properly love winds up improving, or maybe feeling better about something going on with you too. I'm not sure what I'm saying. I think I was doing so well when I first got out here, but now I'm sort of tripping over my words a little bit. What is it that you did do to me? It was that thing Saphrodisiac said. It really kind of got inside my head. You've already finished half a bottle of wine. Already. You do just have to be careful, because if I do take you home, I'd like us to be pleasantly drunk and flirtatious, not half bent over a toilet seat. So please do try to be careful, because half a bottle of wine is quite a bit of wine. Like, how does your biology, how does your biology affect that? What is your biology? Is your entire body just full of souls and that's it, or is it something else? Oh, you figured it out, have you? Yeah, I would really like to take you home, to be honest. That sound like fun? Hmm? I'm glad you guys have enjoyed the date. It's not over yet. Oh, I'm sorry for assuming that you were a lightweight. I'm sorry. A lot of you act like a load of lightweights, so I'm sorry for trying to be more considerate of you, downing more wine than you can handle. But we'll have to see. You know, I'm feeling pretty done with this place. You know what I mean? I feel like we might need to skedaddle, because to be honest, the longer we wait, the more they're just going to kind of realize that we're not actually paying for anything. Although, to be honest, like there's nothing on this menu to pay for, so I think we should just get out of here, huh? Yeah, well, Kindred, are you feeling like you might wanna get out of here? Okay, let's go. Oh, it had to be raining. It had to be raining on our way back. I mean, you know, at least I've got my Harry I can cover your head with. But otherwise, you know, it's just. Also, is it just me, or does the rain look a little weird? There's something strange going on. But either way, we'll figure it out. Can't see a thing in this rain, but luckily, it's a self-driving car. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? So I just get to turn around and face you the entire time. How are you feeling, Kindred? Has the date been okay for you so far? Has it been fun? Has it been enlightening? Has it been all the things you imagined it would be? I'd hope so. I really would. Is this the Lucar? Good question. If it was the Lucar, he would have transformed when we arrived at the... Oh my goodness, I love that hypothetical so much. And for all you kindred know, it's not a hypothetical. That's canon. That's a true thing that happens whenever Luxiem and I want to go out together. The Lucar Carneshiro. Luke is just like, we're like, we don't have enough money for the bus. And Lucar's like, hey, don't worry guys, I got you. And then away he goes. And we all just drive away in the Lucar. That, whoever, I must track them down. Because I remember it was on that Genshin stream, and I was talking about which one of us would be who in Top Gear. I was Jeremy, Mr. was Hammond, Ike was James May, Shu was the Stig, and then we were like, oh, but who's Luca? And some genius said Luca is the car. Transformers, livers in disguise. Why the wiper's not working? Well, it don't really need to work. It's a self-driving car. And you know what I figure? It's kind of got like an aesthetic to it, you know what I mean? The wind and the rain rushing down the windows of the car. You know what I mean? I think that's nice. I think that's something that we deserve. I think it's something that you deserve. Are we there yet? No. Do you remember how long it took us to get out here? And it's raining, and the traffic is worse because it's rush hour. You need to be patient. You need to be patient. And might I say, maybe if we had been together long enough, you'd be able to have me biting at the bit to get you into my bed long enough that we'd be able to just speed and run home fast enough. But to be honest, I don't even know what you've got. I don't even know what's gotten into you. Do you really think that I can, in good conscience, take 10,000 of you to bed? I mean, that just sounds like it'd kill one of us. No, not tonight. Not tonight. Maybe in future? Not tonight. Unless you can seduce me. But I mean, I'm not a slut, but who knows, eh? I do like the rain. I do like the rain. It is very peaceful, isn't it? How about singing a duet on the road? What did we sing? We'd most likely just turn on a local radio station and play some pop song that's been, you know, playing on the radio for the past 25 years non-stop. Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. I've got my seatbelt on. It's around my little waist. Someone said Ed Sheeran. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Don't say Ed Sheeran to me. Don't say that name to me. Sounds like cowards talk, huh? Now, if I knew any better, is that Saku? Is that the person who was causing a ruckus on the sim stream? You know, if I knew any better, I would say that's pretty bad form for a first date. Calling me a coward for not wanting to take you to bed. That's pretty rude. And you know, I was thinking about the sim stream. I was thinking about how everyone was treating me. And I'd like to say that just because when I did my BDSM test I had 100% brat tamer, doesn't mean that any of you ungrateful, spiteful, attention-hungry little... I hesitate to say the word... deserve any attention from me. So why should I try to impress you, huh? Why should I? If somebody earns the right for me to speak to them that way, then maybe I will. But otherwise, I think if you're gonna act like an ungrateful little bitch, then maybe I'll just ignore you, huh? I think that's the last thing you want. Maybe it'll drive you a bit insane. Oh god, I'm really riling you up now. I'm sorry. I don't want to leave you. I don't want to leave you blue-balled when we get home, because really, I have some work to get on with when we get back, and I'm a very busy man. I'm a very busy man. A shower in the rain. I already did that this week, and I think it made Shu very uncomfortable. So, it's not something I really, not something I really want to do again. I like my relationship with the Luxiem boys. I like my relationship with all of you guys. Maybe getting butt naked. I mean, look outside. First of all, we're in the middle of the road. Not safe to get out and shower in the rain. Second of all, can you see the amount of lights? All of those are headlights. All of those are other cars. All of those are other cars that are looking at us. Now, I'm always one for being, a little wild, a little crazy, a little evil and fucked up. I don't want to go to prison. So you never know. For the last time, I don't need to go. I don't need to keep my eyes on the road. It's a self-driving car. Please be patient, Kindred. I know how much you want me to secure your road safety, but to be, yeah. I can hear Saku piping up again. And she's asking if I can make her fall in love again. I suppose that remains to be seen. That is, it's a really bold thing to say, and I have to say that now that we're on the way back to my place, I kind of admire it. You waited to play your cards, and now you've played them. And I'm stuck in a car with you, and I have no choice but to acknowledge what you've said to me, rather than being out in public where I could have just hightailed it and ran away. Yes, my legs are fine. My legs are fine. Quit asking. So thank you very much for that aka, Saku. I suppose we'll have to wait and see. We might see yet, okay? We might find out yet. How are you feeling right now, Kindred? Are you feeling sleepy? One of you said that you did have half a bottle of wine, and how does it work? If one of you has half a bottle of wine, does that just affect the metabolism and the drunkenness of the individual soul, or does it, make everybody drunk? Because if all of you are drinking alcohol, you must be a wreck right now, surely. Surely you must be completely inconsolable. A little sleepy? A little sleepy. Oh, excuse me. Oh, good. Oh, goodness me. Been something in that tea. Yeah, I understand that it must be. Yeah, it is getting quite late, isn't it? It is getting quite late. I've got an idea. Let's come back to my place, and I'll put you up for the night, okay? Let's get in. I'll see you in a sec. Boo! Yeah, it does that sometimes. It's one of the craziest things about my house, Anyway. I figured that, while you're here, we might want to just let you relax a little bit, and then we can... It's nice, isn't it? It's a nice little bedroom. This is just my guest room, so I'd like it if you could make yourself comfortable and you can relax. I've got a little bit of work to be getting on with, so I suppose what I might do is just sort of, maybe just leave you here. I might just leave you here to get some sleep. I'll, tot off to the next room, and if you want to make your own way out in the morning, then by all means, how's that sound? Just waiting for you to process the horrible thing I just said to you. A lot of negative reactions to that. That's good. That's good. That's what I was expecting. I'm glad that you're not willing to take that lying down, although you are lying down. Don't leave. Okay. Well, you are feeling sleepy, and you are feeling a little bit a little bit lonely, I imagine, as well. Would you perhaps like a bedtime story? I do have things to be getting on with, but I imagine you might want one of those, huh? Something to help you get off to sleep, and then maybe we can have some more fun in the morning, I'm glad that you think that's a palatable idea. Give me just 2 seconds. I'm gonna go pop around, and I'm gonna check the wardrobe, and I'll see if there's something I can find, okay? I think I've got something. Hold on. Let me just sit back down. Right. So I thought, how about a little callback to a lovely stream we had a little while ago? Right here, I've got a collection of some stories from, take a guess, Mr. Edgar Allan Poe. Does that sound good? I'm thinking one of the ones that we didn't read last time was The Fall of the House of Usher. How about that one? Does that sound good? Are there any suggestions? Chat, I would love, kindred, darling, love, sweet thing. I would seriously love to read you the Lorax, but the Lorax is not in the public domain, so we are out of options. Is that a good... Oh, you love that one? You love that one, do you, kindred? All right, well, let's give it a go then, shall we? Okay, this is The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. I do love reading stories to people. I like reading them out loud more than I like reading them to myself. During the whole of a dull, dark and soundless day in the autumn of the year, when the clouds hung oppressively low in the heavens, I had been passing alone, on horseback, through a singularly dreary tract of country, and at length found myself, as the shades of evening drew on, within view of the melancholy house of Usher. I knew not how it was, but, with the first glimpse of the building, a sense of insufferable gloom pervaded my spirit. I say insufferable, for the feeling was relieved by any of that half-pleasurable, because poetic, sentiment, and with which the mind usually receives even the sternest natural images of the desolate or terrible. I looked upon the scene before me. upon the mere house, and the simple landscape features of the domain, upon the bleak walls, upon the vacant eye-like windows, upon a few rank sedges, and upon a few white trunks of decayed trees, with an utter depression of soul, which I can compare to no earthly sensation more properly than to the after-dream of the reveller upon opium, the bitter lapse into everyday life, the hideous dropping off of the veil. There was an iciness, a sinking, a sickening of the heart, an unredeemed dreariness of thought, which no goading of the imagination could torture into aught of the sublime. What was it? I paused to think. What was it that so unnerved me in the contemplation of the house of Usher? It was a mystery all insoluble, nor could I grapple with the shadowy fancies that crowded upon me as I pondered. I was forced to fall back upon the unsatisfactory conclusion that while, beyond doubt, there are combinations of very simple natural objects which have the power of thus affecting us, still the analysis of this power lies among considerations beyond our depth. It was possible, I reflected, that a mere different arrangement of the particulars of the scene, of the details of the picture, would be sufficient to modify, or perhaps to annihilate, its capacity for sorrowful impression, and acting upon this idea, I reined my horse to the precipitous brink of a black and lurid tarn that lay in unruffled lustre by the dwelling, and gazed down, but with a shudder even more thrilling than before, upon the remodelled and inverted images of the grey sedge, and the ghastly tree stems, and the vacant and eye-like windows. Nevertheless, in this mansion of gloom, I now proposed to myself a sojourn of some weeks. Its proprietor, Roderick Usher, had been one of my boon companions in boyhood, but many years had elapsed since our last meeting. A letter, however, had lately reached me in a distant part of the country. A letter from him which, in its wildly importunate, that's a word I haven't read before, importunate nature, had admitted of no other than a personal reply. The MS gave evidence of nervous agitation. The writer spoke of acute bodily illness, of a mental disorder which oppressed him, and of an earnest desire to see me as his best and indeed his only personal friend, with a view of attempting, by the cheerfulness of my society, some alleviation of his malady. It was the manner in which all this, and much more, was said, and it was the apparent heart that went with his request, which allowed me no room for hesitation, and I accordingly obeyed forthwith that I still considered a very singular summons. Although, as boys, we had been even intimate associates, yet I really knew little of my friend. His reserve had always been excessive and habitual. I was aware, however, that his very ancient family had been noted, time out of mind, for a particular sensibility of temperament, displaying itself through long ages in many works of exalted art, and manifested of late in repeated deeds of munificent yet unobtrusive charity, as well as in passionate devotion to the intricacies, perhaps even more than to the orthodox and easily recognizable beauties of musical science. I had learned, too, the very remarkable fact that the stem of the Usher race, all-time honored as it was, had put forth at no period any enduring branch. In other words, that the entire family lay in the direct line of descent, and had always, with very trifling and very temporary variation, so lain. It was this deficiency I considered, while running over in thought the perfect keeping of the character of premises with the accredited character of the people, and while speculating upon the possible influence which the one, in the long lapse of centuries, might have exercised upon the other. It was this deficiency, perhaps of collateral issue, and the consequent deviating transmission from sire to son of the patrimony with the name, which had, at length, so identified the two as to merge the original title of the estate in the quaint and equivocal appellation of the House of Usher, an appellation which seemed to include, in the minds of the peasantry who used it, both the family and the family mansion. I have said that the sole effect of my somewhat childish experiment, that of looking down within the tarn, had been to deepen the first singular impression. There can be no doubt that the consciousness of the rapid increase of my superstition, for why should I not so term it, served mainly to accelerate the increase itself. Such, I have long known, is the paradoxical law of all sentiments having terror as a basis. And it might have been for this reason only that, when I again uplifted my eyes to the house itself, from its image in the pool, there grew in my mind a strange fancy. A fancy so ridiculous indeed that I mention it to show the vivid force of the sensations which oppressed me. I had so worked upon my imagination as really to believe that about the whole mansion and domain there hung an atmosphere peculiar to themselves and their immediate vicinity, an atmosphere which had no affinity with the air of heaven, but which had reeked up from the decayed trees, and the grey wall, and the silent tarn, a pestilent and mystic vapour, dull, sluggish, faintly discernible, and leaden-hued. Oh, hang on, I think there's a bit of light shining out from up there. Let me help you get to sleep, just one moment. That should be better. Now it's nice and dark for you. Oh, you've got pillows, quit complaining. Shaking off from my spirit what must have been a dream, I scanned more narrowly the real aspect of the building. Oh, that was the same line. Oh, goodness me. Its principal feature seemed to be that of an excessive antiquity. The discoloration of ages had been great. Minute fungi overspread the whole exterior, hanging in a fine tangled webwork from the eaves. Yet all this was apart from any extraordinary dilapidation. No portion of the masonry had fallen, and there appeared to be a wild inconsistency between its still perfect adaptation of parts and the crumbling condition of the individual stones. In this there was much that reminded me of the specious totality of old woodwork which has rotted for long years in some neglected vault, with no disturbance from the breath of the external air. Beyond this indication of extensive decay, however, the fabric gave little token of instability. Perhaps the eye of a scrutinizing observer might have discovered a barely perceptible fissure which, extending from the roof of the building in front, made its way down the wall in a zigzag direction until it became lost in the sullen waters of the tarn. Noticing these things, I rode over a short causeway to the house. A servant in waiting took my horse, and I entered the Gothic archway of the hall. A valet, with stealthy step, thence conducted me in silence through many dark and intricate passages in my progress to the studio of his master. Much that I encountered on the way contributed, I know not how, to heighten the vague sentiments of which I have already spoken. While the objects around me, while the carvings of the ceilings, the sombre tapestries of the walls, the ebon blackness of the floors, and the phantasmagoric armorial trophies which rattled as I strode, were but matters to which, or to such as which, I had been accustomed from my infancy. While I hesitated not to acknowledge how familiar was all this, I still wondered to find how unfamiliar were the fancies which ordinary images were stirring up. On one of the staircases I met the physician of the family. His countenance, I thought, wore a mingled expression of low cunning and perplexity. He accosted me with trepidation and passed on. The valet now threw open a door and ushered me into the presence of his master. The room in which I found myself was very large and lofty. The windows were long, narrow, and pointed, and at so vast a distance from the black oaken floor as to be altogether inaccessible from within. Feeble gleams of encrimsoned light made their way through the trellised panes, and served to render sufficiently distinct the more prominent objects around. The eye, however, struggled in vain to reach the remoter angles of the chamber, or the recesses of the vaulted and fretted ceiling. I think I've lost my place, Kindred. One sec. Oh, there it is. Dark draperies hung upon the walls. The gentle furniture was profuse, comfortless, antique, and tattered. Many books and musical instruments lay scattered about, but failed to give any vitality to the scene. I felt that I breathed an atmosphere of sorrow, an air of stern, deep, and irredeemable gloom hung over and pervaded all. Upon my entrance, Usher arose from a sofa on which he had been lying at full length and greeted me with a vivacious warmth which had much in it, I at first thought, of an overdone cordiality, of the constrained effort of the ennuyé man of the world. A glance, however, at his countenance convinced me of his perfect sincerity. We sat down, and for some moments, while he spoke not, I gazed upon him with a feeling half of pity and half of awe. Surely man had never before so terribly altered in so brief a period as had Roderick Usher. It was with difficulty that I could bring myself to admit the identity of the one being before me with the companion of my early boyhood, yet the character of his face had been at all times remarkable. A cadaverousness of complexion, an eye large, liquid, and luminous beyond comparison, lips somewhat thin and very pallid, but of a surprisingly beautiful curve, a nose of a delicate Hebrew model, but with a breadth of nostril unusual in similar formations, a finely moulded chin, speaking in its want of prominence, of a want of moral energy, hair of a more than web-like softness and tenuity. These features, with an inordinate expansion above the regions of the temple, made up altogether a countenance not easily to be forgotten. And now, in the mere exaggeration of the prevailing character of these features, and of the expression they were wont to convey, lay so much of change that I doubted to whom I spoke. The now ghastly pallor of the skin, and the now miraculous lustre of the eye, above all things startled and even awed me. The silken hair, too, had been suffered to grow all unheeded, and as, in its wild gossamer texture, it floated rather than fell about the face, I could not, even with effort, connect its arabesque expression with any idea of simple humanity. Do settle down, Kindred. I'm trying to read a story here. I keep looking at chat and people have farted, people have started pillow fights. Guys, I'm trying to read some Edgar Allan Poe here. You guys are supposed to be getting off to sleep, okay? Okay? Oh, you do make me laugh. In the manner of my friend, I was at once struck with an incoherence, an inconsistency, and I soon found this to arise from a series of feeble and futile struggles to overcome an habitual trepidancy, an excessive nervous agitation. For something of this nature I had indeed been prepared, no less by his letter than by reminiscences of certain boyish traits, and by conclusions deduced from his particular physical conformation and temperament. His action was alternately vivacious and sullen. His voice varied rapidly from a tremulous indecision, when the animal spirits seemed utterly in abeyance, to that species of energetic concision, that abrupt, weighty, unhurried and hollow-sounding enunciation, that leaden, self-balanced and perfectly modulated guttural utterance which may be observed in the lost drunkard or the irreclaimable eater of opium during the periods of his most intense excitement. It was thus that he spoke of the object of my visit, of his earnest desire to see me, and the solace he expected me to afford him. He entered, at some length, into what he conceived to be the nature of his malady, or malady. Not sure if he's talking about some sort of emotion or a malady, you know what I mean? It's Old English, it's fine. It was, he said, a constitutional and a family evil, and one for which he despaired to find a remedy, a mere nervous affection. He immediately added, which would undoubtedly soon pass off. It displayed itself in a host of unnatural sensations. Some of these, as he detailed them, interested and bewildered me, although perhaps the terms and the general manner of their narration had their weight. He suffered much from a morbid acuteness of the senses. The most insipid food was alone endurable. He could wear only garments of a certain texture. The odors of all flowers were oppressive. His eyes were tortured by even a faint light, and there were but peculiar sounds, and these from stringed instruments which did not inspire him with horror. To an anomalous species of terror I found him a bounden slave. I shall perish, said he. I must perish in this deplorable folly. Thus, and not otherwise, shall I be lost. I dread the events of the future, not in themselves, but in their results. I shudder at the thought of any, even the most trivial incident, which may operate upon this intolerable agitation of the soul. I have, indeed, no abhorrence of danger, except in its absolute effect, in terror, in this unnerved, in this pitiable condition. I feel that the period will sooner or later arrive when I must abandon life and reason together in some struggle with the grim phantasm, fear. I learned, moreover, at intervals, and through broken and equivocal hints, another singular feature of his mental condition. He was enchained by certain superstitious impressions in regard to the dwelling which he had tenanted, and whence, for many years, he had never ventured forth in regard to an influence whose supposititious force was conveyed in terms too shadowy here to be restated, an influence which some peculiarities in the mere form and substance of his family mansion had, by dint of long sufferance, he said, obtained over his spirit, an effect which the physique of the grey walls and turrets, and of the dim tarn into which they all looked down, had, at length, brought about upon the morale of his existence. He admitted, however, although with hesitation, that much of the peculiar gloom which thus afflicted him could be traced to a more natural and far more palpable origin, to the severe and long-continued illness, indeed, to the evidently approaching dissolution of a tenderly beloved sister, his sole companion for his long years, his last and only relative on earth. Her decease, he said, with a bitterness which I can never forget, would leave him the hopeless and the frail, the last of the ancient race of the Ushers. While he spoke, the Lady Madeline, for so was she called, passed through a remote portion of the apartment, and, without having noticed my presence, disappeared. I regarded her with an utter astonishment, not unmingled with dread, and yet I found it impossible to account for such feelings. A sensation of stupor oppressed me as my eyes followed her retreating steps. When a door, at length, closed upon her, my glance sought instinctively and eagerly the countenance of the brother, but he had buried his face in his hands, and I could only perceive that far more than ordinary wanness had overspread the emaciated fingers through which trickled many passionate tears. You'd like me to hold your hand, would you, Kindred? Sorry if the story is a little bit scary. No, it's all right. Thank you very much for that. The disease of the Lady Madeline had long baffled the skill of her physicians. A settled apathy, a gradual wasting away of the person, and frequent, although transient, affections of a partially cataleptical character were the unusual diagnosis. Hitherto, she had steadily borne up against the pressure of her malady, and had not betaken herself finally to bed. But on the closing in of the evening of my arrival at the house, she succumbed, as her brother told me at night, with inexpressible agitation, to the prostrating power of the destroyer, and I learned that the glimpse I had obtained of her person would thus probably be the last I should obtain, for the lady, at least while living, would be seen by me no more. For several days ensuing, her name was unmentioned by either Usher or myself, and during this period I was busied in earnest endeavors to alleviate the melancholy of my friend. We painted and read together, or I listened, as if in a dream, to the wild improvisations of his speaking guitar, and thus, as a closer and still closer intimacy admitted me more unreservedly into the recesses of his spirit, the more bitterly did I perceive the futility of all attempt at cheering a mind from which darkness, as if an inherent positive quality, poured forth upon all objects of the moral and physical universe in one unceasing radiation of gloom. I shall ever bear about me a memory of the many solemn hours I thus spent alone with the master of the house of Usher. Yet I should fail in any attempt to convey an idea of the exact character of the studies, or of the occupations in which he involved me, or led me the way. An excited and highly distempered ideality threw a sulphurous lustre over all. His long improvised dirges will ring forever in my ears. Among other things, I hold painfully in mind a certain singular preservation, or perversion rather, and amplification of the wild air of the last waltz of von Weber, from the paintings over which his elaborate fancy brooded, and which grew touch by touch into vagueness at which I shuddered the more thrillingly, because I shuddered knowing not why. From these paintings, vivid as their images now are before me, I would in vain endeavour to educe more than a small portion which should lie within the compass of merely written words. By the utter simplicity, by the nakedness of his designs, he arrested and overawed attention. If ever mortal painted an idea, that mortal was Roderick Usher. For me, at least, in the circumstances then surrounding me, there arose out of the pure abstractions which the hypochondriac contrived to throw upon his canvas an intensity of intolerable awe, no shadow of which felt I ever yet in the contemplation of the certainly glowing yet too concrete reveries of Fuseli. One of the phantasmagoric... I'm going to get this right. One of the phantasmagoric conceptions of my friend, Wei, partaking not so rigidly of the spirit of abstraction, may be shadowed forth, although feebly, in words. A small picture presented the interior of an immensely long and rectangular vault or tunnel, with low walls, smooth, white, and without interruption or device. Certain accessory points of the design served well to convey the idea that this excavation lay at an exceeding depth below the surface of the earth. No outlet was observed in any portion of its vast extent, and no torch or other artificial source of light was discernible. Yet a flood of intense rays rolled throughout and bathed the whole in a ghastly and inappropriate splendor. I have just spoken of that morbid condition of the auditory nerve which rendered all music intolerable to the sufferer, with the exception of certain effects of stringed instruments. It was perhaps the narrow limits to which he thus confined himself upon the guitar which gave birth, in great measure, to the fantastic character of his performances, but the fervid facility of his impromptus could not be so accounted for. They must have been, and were, in the notes, as well as in the words of his wild fantasias, for he not unfrequently accompanied himself with rhymed verbal improvisations, the result of that intense mental collectedness and concentration to which I have previously alluded as observable only in particular moments of the highest artificial excitement. The words of one of these rhapsodies I have easily remembered. I was, perhaps, the more forcibly impressed with it as he gave it, because, in the under or mystic current of its meaning, I fancied that I perceived, and for the first time, a full consciousness on the part of Usher of the tottering of his lofty reason upon her throne. The verses, which were entitled "The Haunted Palace," ran very nearly, if not accurately, thus. In the greenest of our valleys, by good angels tenanted, once a fair and stately place, radiant palace reared its head, in the monarch thought's dominion. It stood there, never seraph spread a pinion over fabric half so fair. Banners yellow, glorious, golden, on its roof did float and flow. This, all this, was in the olden time, long ago. And every gentle air that dallied in that sweet day along the ramparts, plumed and pallid, a winged odor went away. Wanderers in that happy valley through two luminous windows saw spirits moving musically to a lute's well-tuned law, round about a throne where sitting Porphyrogeny, in state his glory well befitting. Let me read that one again. Wanderers in that happy valley through two luminous windows saw two spirits moving musically to a lute's well-tuned law, round about a throne where sitting Porphyrogeny, in his state his glory well befitting, the ruler of the realm was seen. And all with pearl and ruby glowing was the fair palace door, through which came flowing, and sparkling evermore, a troop of echoes whose sweet duty was but to sing, in voices of surpassing beauty, the wit and wisdom of their king. But evil things in robes of sorrow assailed the monarch's high estate. Ah, let us mourn, for never morrow shall dawn upon him desolate. And round about his home, the glory that blushed and bloomed is but a dim remembered story of the old time entombed. And travellers now within that valley, through the red-litten windows, see vast forms that move fantastically to a discordant melody, while like a rapid ghastly river, through the pale door, a hideous throng rush out forever, and laugh but smile no more. I well remember that suggestions arising from this ballad led us onto a train of thought wherein there became a manifest of an opinion of Usher's, which I mention not so much on account of its novelty, for other men have thought thus, as on account of the pertinacity of which he maintained it. This opinion, in its general thought form, was that of the sentience of all vegetable things. But in his disordered fancy, the idea had assumed a more daring character, and trespassed under certain conditions upon the kingdom of inorganization. I lack words to express the full extent or the earnest abandon of his persuasion. The belief, however, was connected, as I have previously hinted, with the grey stones of which the home of his forefathers. The conditions of the sentence had been here, he imagined, fulfilled in the method of collocation of these stones, in the order of their arrangement, as well as in that of the many fungi which overspread them, and of the decayed trees which stood around, above all, in the long, undisturbed endurance of this arrangement, and in its reduplication in the still waters of its tarn. Its evidence, the evidence of the sentience, was to be seen, he said, and I here started as he spoke, in the gradual yet certain condensation of an atmosphere of their own about the waters and the walls. The result was discoverable, he added, in that silent yet importunate and terrible influence which for centuries had moulded the destinies of his family, and which made him what I now saw him, what he was. Such opinions need no comment, and I will make none. Our books, the books which for years have formed no small portion of the mental existence of the invalid, were, as might be supposed, in strict keeping with this character of phantasm. We pored together over such works as the Vivert et Chartreuse of Grisset, the Belphegor of Machiavelli, the Heaven and Hell of Swedenborg, the Subterranean Voyage of Nicholas Klim by Holberg, the Chiromancy of Robert Flood, of Jean Denagenet, and of De la Chambre, the Journey into the Blue Distance of Tieck, and the City of the Sun by Campanella. One favorite volume was a small octavo edition of the Directorium Inquisitorium by the Dominican Aymeric de Gironi, and there were passages in Pomponius Mela about the old African satyrs and Egyptians over which Usher would sit dreaming for hours. His chief delight, however, was found in the perusal of an exceedingly rare and curious book in quarto Gothic, the Manual of a Forgotten Church, De Vigilae Mortuorum Secundum Coram Ecclesiae Maguntinae. I could not help thinking of the wild ritual of this work, and of its probable influence upon the hypochondriac, when one evening, having informed me abruptly that the Lady Madeline was no more, he stated his intention of preserving her corpse for a fortnight, previously to its final interment, in one of the numerous vaults within the main walls of the building. The worldly reason, however, assigned for this singular proceeding was one which I did not feel at liberty to dispute. The brother had been led to his resolution, so he told me, by consideration of the unusual character of the milady of the deceased, of certain obtrusive and eager inquiries on the part of her medical men, and of the remote and exposed situation of the burial ground of the family. I will not deny that when I called to mind the sinister countenance of the person whom I met upon the staircase, upon the day of my arrival at the house, I had no desire to oppose what I regarded as at best but a harmless and by no means an unnatural precaution. At the request of Usher, I personally aided him in the arrangements for the temporary entombment. The body having been encoffined, we two alone bore it to its rest. The vault in which we placed it, and which we had been so long unopened that our torches, half smothered in its oppressive atmosphere, gave us little opportunity for investigation, was small, damp, and entirely without means of admission, a light lying at great depth, immediately beneath that portion of the building in which was my own sleeping apartment. It had been used, apparently in remote feudal times, for the worst purposes of a donjon keep, and in later days as a place of deposit for powder or some other highly combustible substance, as a portion of its floor and the whole interior of a long archway through which we reached it were carefully sheathed with copper. The door of massive iron had been also similarly protected. Its immense weight caused an unusually sharp, grating sound as it moved upon its hinges. Having deposited our mournful burden upon trestles within this region of horror, we partially turned aside the yet unscrewed lid of the coffin and looked upon the face of the tenant. A striking similitude between the brother and sister now first arrested my attention, and Usher, divining, perhaps, my thoughts, murmured out some few words from which I learned that the deceased and himself had been twins. And that sympathies of a scarcely intelligible nature had always existed between them. Our glances, however, rested not long upon the dead, for we could not regard her unawed. The disease which had thus entombed the lady in the maturity of youth had left, as usual, in all maladies of a strictly cataleptical character, the mockery of a faint blush upon the bosom and the face, and that suspiciously lingering smile upon the lip which is so terrible in death. We replaced and screwed down the lid, and, having secured the door of iron, made our way, with toil, into the scarcely less gloomy apartments of the upper portion of the house. And now, some days of bitter grief having elapsed, an observable change came over the features of the mental disorder of my friend. His ordinary manner had vanished. His ordinary occupations were neglected or forgotten. He roamed from chamber to chamber with hurried, unequal, and objectless step. The pallor of his countenance had assumed, if possible, a more ghastly hue, but the luminousness of his eye had utterly gone out. The once occasional huskiness of his tone was heard no more, and a tremulous quaver, as if of extreme terror, was habitually characterized his utterance. There were times, indeed, when I thought his unceasingly agitated mind was laboring with some oppressive secret, to divulge which he struggled for the necessary courage. At times, again, I was obliged to resolve all into the mere inexplicable vagaries of madness, for I beheld him gazing upon vacancy for long hours, in an attitude of the profoundest attention, as if listening to some imaginary sound. It was no wonder that his condition terrified, that it infected me. I felt creeping upon me, by slow yet certain degrees, the wild influences of his own, yet fantastic, yet impressive superstitions. Oh, Shimmerly, thank you for the suggestion. I think maybe we can try The Little Prince next time. The story is quite long, so I'd like to send you off to sleep once it's done, but you've all done so well, so I would quite like to take you out again, if that's all right. The story's almost over, and when it is, I've got a treat for you. It was especially upon retiring to bed late in the night of the 7th or 8th day after the placing of the Lady Madeline within the dungeon that I experienced the full power of such feelings. Sleep came not near my couch while the hours waned and waned away. I struggled to reason off the nervousness which had dominion over me. I endeavored to believe that much. if not all of what I felt, was due to the bewildering influence of the gloomy furniture of the room, of the dark and tattered draperies, which, tortured into motion by the breath of a rising tempest, swayed fitfully to and fro upon the walls and rustled uneasily about the decorations of the bed. But my efforts were fruitless. An irrepressible tremor gradually pervaded my frame, and, at length, there sat upon my very heart an incubus of utterly causeless alarm. Shaking this off with a grasp and a struggle, I uplifted myself upon the pillows, and, peering earnestly within the intense darkness of the chamber, hearkened, I know not why, except that an instinctive spirit prompted me to certain low and indefinite sounds which came through the pauses of the storm, at long intervals I knew not whence. Overpowered by an intense sentiment of horror, unaccountable yet unendurable, I threw on my clothes with haste, for I felt that I should sleep no more during the night, and endeavored to arouse myself from the pitiable condition into which I had fallen by pacing rapidly to and fro through the apartment. I had taken but few turns in this manner, when a light step on an adjoining staircase arrested my attention. I presently recognized it as that of Usher. In an instant afterward he rapped with a gentle touch at my door, and entered, bearing a lamp. His countenance was, as usual, cadaverously wan, but, moreover, there was a species of mad hilarity in his eyes, and evidently restrained hysteria in his whole demeanour. His air appalled me, but anything was preferable to the solitude which I had long endured, and even welcomed his presence as a relief. "And you have not seen it," he said abruptly, after having stared about him for some moments in silence. "You have not seen it, but stay, you shall." Thus speaking, and having carefully shaded his lamp, he hurried to one of the casements and threw it freely into the open. The impetuous fury of the entering gust nearly lifted us from our feet. It was, indeed, a tempestuous yet sternly beautiful night, and one wildly singular in its terror and its beauty. A whirlwind had apparently collected its force in our vicinity, for there were frequent and violent alterations in the direction of the wind, and the exceeding density of the clouds, which hung so low as to press upon the turrets of the house, did not prevent our perceiving the lifelike velocity with which they flew careering from all points against each other, without passing away into the distance. I say that even their exceeding density did not prevent perceiving this, yet we had no glimpse of the moon or stars, nor was there any flashing forth of the lightning, but under surfaces of the huge masses of agitated vapor, as well as all terrestrial objects immediately around us, were glowing in the unnatural light of a faintly luminous and distinctly visible gaseous exhalation which hung about and enshrouded the mansion. "You must not. You shall not behold this," said I, shuddering to Usher, as I led him with a gentle violence from the window to a seat. "These appearances which bewilder you are merely electrical phenomena, not uncommon, or it may be that they have their ghastly origin in the rank miasma of the tarn. Let us close this casement. The air is chilling and dangerous to your frame. Here is one of your favorite romances. I will read, and you shall listen, and so we shall pass away this terrible night together." The antique volume which I had taken up was The Mad Tryst of Sir Launcelot Canning, but I had called it a favourite of Usher's more in sad jest than in earnest, for in truth there is little in its uncouth and unimaginative prolixity which could have an interest for the lofty and spiritual ideality of my friend. It was, however, the only book immediately at hand, and I indulged a vague hope that the excitement which now agitated the hypochondriac might find relief. For the history of mental disorder is full of similar anomalies, even in the extremeness of the folly which I could read. Could I have judged, indeed, by the wild overstrained air of vivacity with which he hearkened, or apparently hearkened, to the words of the tale, I might well have congratulated myself upon the success of my design. I had arrived at that well-known portion of the story where Ethelred, the hero of the tryst, having sought in vain for peaceable admission into the dwelling of the hermit, proceeds to make good an entrance by force. Here will be remembered by the words of the narrative run thus. And Ethelred, who was by nature of a doughty heart, and who was now mighty withal, on account of the powerfulness of the wine which he had drunken, waited no longer to hold parley with the hermit, who, in sooth, was of an obstinate and maliceful turn, but feeling the rain upon his shoulders, and fearing the rising of the tempest, uplifted his mace outright, and with blows made quickly room in the plankings of the door for his gauntleted hand, and now pulling therewith sturdily, he so cracked and ripped and tore all asunder, and the noise of the dry and hollow-sounding wood alaroomed and reverberated through the forest. At the termination of the sentence I started, and for a moment paused, for it appeared to me, although I had once concluded that my excited fantasy had deceived me, it appeared to me that from some very remote portion of the mansion there came, indistinctly to my ears, what might have been, in its exact similarity of character, the echo, but a stifled and dull one certainly, of the very cracking and ripping sound, which Sir Lancelot had so particularly described. It was, beyond doubt, the coincidence alone which had arrested my attention, for, amid the rattling of the sashes of the casements and the ordinary commingled noises of the still increasing storm, the sound in itself had nothing, surely, which should have interested or disturbed me. I continued the story. But the good champion Ethelred, now entering within the door, was sore enraged and amazed to perceive no signal of the maliceful hermit, but, in the stead thereof, a dragon of a scaly and prodigious demeanour, and of a fiery tongue, which stayed in guard before a palace of gold, with a floor of silver, and upon the wall there hung a shield of shining brass, with this legend enwritten: Who entereth herein, a conqueror hath been. Who slayeth the dragon, the shield he shall win. And Ethelred uplifted his mace, and struck upon the head of the dragon, which fell before him, and gave up his pesty breath with a shriek so horrid and harsh, and withal so piercing, that Ethelred had fain to close his ears with his hands against the dreadful noise of it, the like whereof was never before heard. Here again I paused abruptly, and now, with a feeling of wild amazement, for there could be no doubt whatever that, in this instance, I did actually hear, although from what direction it proceeded I found it impossible to say, a low and apparently distant but harsh, protracted, and most unusual screaming or grating sound, the exact counterpart of what my fancy had already conjured up for the dragon's unnatural shriek as described by the romancer. Oppressed, as certainly I was, upon the occurrence of this second and most extraordinary coincidence, by 1,000 conflicting sensations in which wonder and extreme terror were predominant, I still retained sufficient presence of mind to avoid exciting, by any observation, the sensitive nervousness of my companion. I was by no means certain that he had noticed the sounds in question, although assuredly a strange alteration had, during the last few minutes, taken place in his demeanour. From a position fronting my own, he had gradually brought round his chair so as to sit with his face to the door of the chamber, and thus I could partially perceive his features, though I saw that his lips trembled as if he were murmuring inaudibly. His head had dropped upon his breast, yet I knew that he was not asleep, from the wide and rigid opening of his eye, as I caught a glance of it in profile. The motion of his body, too, was at variance with this idea, for he rocked from side to side with a gentle yet constant and uniform sway. Having rapidly taken notice of all this, I resumed the narrative of Sir Lancelot, and thus proceeded. And now, the champion. having escaped from the terrible fury of the dragon, bethinking himself of the brazen shield and of the breaking up of the enchantment which was upon it, removed the carcass from out of the way before him, and approached valorously over the silver pavement of the castle to where the shield was upon the wall, which in sooth tarried not for his coming, but fell down at his feet upon the silver floor with a mighty great and terrible ringing sound. No sooner had these syllables passed my lips than, as if a shielded brass had indeed at the moment fallen heavily upon a floor of silver, I became aware of a distinct, hollow, metallic, and clangorous, yet apparently muffled reverberation. Completely unnerved, I leapt to my feet, but the measured rocking movement of Usher was undisturbed. I rushed to the chair in which he sat. His eyes were bent fixedly before him, and throughout his whole countenance there reigned a stony rigidity. But as I placed my hand upon his shoulder, there came a strong shudder over his whole person. A sickly smile quivered about his lips, and I saw that he spoke in a low, hurried, and gibbering murmur, as if unconscious of my presence. Bending closely over him, I at length drank in the hideous import of his words. Not hear it? Yes, I hear it, and have heard it. Long, many minutes, many hours, many days have I heard it, yet I dared not. Oh, pity me, miserable wretch that I am. I dared not speak. We have put her living in the tomb. Said I not that my senses were acute? I now tell you that I heard her first feeble movements in the hollow coffin. I heard them many days ago, yet I dared not speak. And now, tonight, Ethelred, the breathing of the hermit's door, and the death cry of the dragon, and the clangor of the shield, say, rather, the rendering of her coffin, and the grating of the iron hinges of her prison, and the struggles within the coppered archway of the vault. Oh, whither shall I fly? Would she not be here anon? Is she not hurrying to upbraid me for my haste? Have I not heard her footstep on the stair? Do I not distinguish that heavy and horrible beating of her heart? Madman! Here he sprang furiously to his feet and shrieked out his syllables as if in the effort he were giving up his soul. Madman, I tell you that she now stands without the door. As if the superhuman energy of his utterance there had been found the potency of a spell, the huge antique panels to which the speaker pointed threw slowly back upon the instant their ponderous and ebony jaws. It was the work of the rushing gust. But then, without those doors, there did stand the lofty and enshrouded figure of the Lady Madeline of Usher. There was blood upon her white robes, and the evidence of some bitter struggle upon every portion of her emaciated frame. For a moment, she remained trembling and reeling to and fro upon the threshold, and then, with a low, moaning cry, she heavily inward upon the person of her brother fell, and in her violent, now final death agonies, bore him to the floor, a corpse, and a victim to the terrors he had anticipated. From that chamber, and from that mansion, I fled aghast. The storm was still abroad in all its wrath, as I found myself crossing the old causeway. Suddenly there shot along the path a wild light, as I turned to see whence a gleam so unusual would have issued, for the vast house and its shadows were alone behind me. The radiance was that of the full, setting, and blood-red moon, which now shone vividly through that once barely discernible fissure of which I have before spoken as extending from the roof of the building in a zigzag direction to the base. While I gazed, this fissure rapidly widened. There came a fierce breath of the whirlwind. The entire orb of the satellite burst at once upon my sight. My brain reeled as I saw the mighty walls rushing asunder. There was a long, tumultuous, shouting sound, like the voice of 1,000 waters, and the deep and dank tarn at my feet sullenly closed and silently over the fragments of the house of Usher. Wow, that one was longer than I was expecting it to be. Kindred, I hope you enjoyed this story. And with that, it's time for me to get on with the rest of my day. I have some work to do, but I'm very, very thankful that all of you decided to stay awake to listen. Although it's good to see that not all 10,000 of you are still here, because I imagine some of you must have nodded off by now, which I have to say is quite an honor. So, Kindred, thank you ever so much for coming out with me today. It has been quite an interesting experience, and I have to say, I have an idea. I'd like to go out with you again. And when we do, maybe you all can come up with some things for us to do, huh? I think that might be quite a bit of fun. Maybe I'll give you a choice, and that collection of souls inside you can vote on which we'd like to do. Will we stay at home and cook, or will we go out to eat? You can think of it as a choose-your-own adventure. I think that might be fun. But before we go, there's something else I think you've earned. So please, shut your eyes and get to sleep, okay? You didn't think I'd forgotten, had you? Sleep well, Kindred.